All right, Alexander, we had a couple of interesting election results over the weekend. One coming out of Germany with the AfD. We've done many videos talking about the AfD. And then we have Greece, the second round of Greek elections. I guess you can call it a second round, but really what it was the New Democracy Party opting for a second go at the elections in order for them to avoid having to form a coalition and so that they can get complete control of the parliament and the government. The AfD did really well in regional elections, surprisingly well. And as expected, the Mitsotakis government, they won an outright majority in these elections. That's not really the story for me. For me, the story is very low turnout.
Unprecedentedly low in Greece.
Yeah, and the rise of a type of AfD parties in Greece now. Three parties which are similar to AfD. Three parties in Greece that did manage to get over I think it's the 3% mark. And they're going to have about 35 seats in parliament. The Spartans, Niki, and the National Lisi, the National Solution. So an interesting development in Greece. Not the Mitsotakis New Democracy, all the other stuff.
I'm going to say this. I think that Mitsotakis, the New Democracy result, was actually slightly underwhelming, in fact, in the sense that he was bound to win after the first round. He was going to get a majority. I mean, that is completely unsurprising. I think he will have been disappointed by the low turnout and by the fact that New Democracy actually polled because of the low turnout. I understand 300,000 fewer votes than in the first round. Now, the other big story, though, I mean, before we get to the right, and you're absolutely right about that, that is the big story. The other big story is the continuing collapse of the Greek left. So Syriza continues to lose support. It fell even further. It lost both percentage points and votes as compared with the first round. I believe it's gone down from about 20% to about 17%. So you can see that it's this balloon that was Syriza. The air is now going out of it. I mean, at the speed things are going, it's going to become a minor party again. PASOK, the old socialist or social democrat party of Greece, the party of Andreas and George Papandreou, the dominant party in Greece for much of the period after the 1980s. It was been expected to gain support. It really didn't. I mean, it too lost votes as compared with the first round. Not as many, Syriza, but it too lost votes. And it didn't really gain much in percentage terms either. It was just a standstill. And Yanis Varoufakis is completely out of the picture. I mean, he's completely gone from the game. I mean, we've always said, both of us have always said that in Greece, he is an inconsequential figure. However many programs he does on, Euronews or wherever it is that he does, however many lectures he conducts in North European universities. In Greece, he's a non-entity. And we see this again. The other big story, though, is the rise of the right. Now, they have won 16% of the vote. These three parties together. That's more than PASOK. That's only 1% less than Syriza. So this is a huge surge in support, even against the background of this very low turnout for the right. This is the most right-wing parliament, in a way, that Greece has had since the fall of the dictatorship in 1974.
Yeah, and these three parties are real conservative right, because New Democracy, they position themselves as conservative right, but I've said many times that they're more globalist, neoliberal than conservative right. So these three parties, You know, they're clearly positioned as conservative, right, Greek national interests above all else.
Well, that's
Type
exactly
of parties.
That's exactly why they're rising, because you say that, and you're absolutely right about this, that New Democracy is globalist, is part of the globalist establishment. It's part of the European establishment. They are unswervingly loyal to the European Union. They're unswervingly loyal to Washington. They will do everything that they're told to do. But so is also the case with the so-called left in Greece. The left in Greece is no different. Syriza will do exactly what it's told by Brussels and Frankfurt. Well, we saw that when Tsipras the Syriza were in power. They put on an extraordinary piece of theatre at the first few months of appearing to challenge the European Union and pushed back against the bailout plans, and then they capitulated and did everything that they were told to do. And before Syriza, PASOK was the same. So, people in Greece, very unhappy by the situation, very unhappy by the fact that Greece continues to be so much under the thumb of Brussels, very unhappy about what that has meant for Greece, the absolute devastation of the Greek economy and of the lives of millions of Greek people. They're also very, very unhappy, I suspect, by the foreign policy that both Syriza and Mitsotakis have followed, which is to be as closely aligned with Washington and its policies as it's possible to be. And this has become extremely obvious over the course of the conflict with Ukraine. So lots of Greeks have said, enough's enough. I might have been left once. I might have been centrist once. I'm not having anything more to do with these terrible people. They betrayed me at every turn. I might as well go, finally, with those parties which actually appear to mean what they say and are prepared to stand for Greece. And, parties like the Spartans, well, that tells you the very name tells you what they're about.
Yeah. And you don't see parties like the Spartans on the left. In other words, once again, you see a big lack of a traditional liberal left party.
No, absolutely.
It just doesn't exist anymore, traditional left.
No.
It's disappeared. This is across Europe, it seems.
Yes. Well, it is, exactly. In Greece, the only party that could remotely approximate to that to some degree is the Greek Communist Party. But, that isn't... it's a fossil, if I have to be honest. Its politics are still stuck very much in the world of the 1950s. So, it's not really evolved beyond that. Whereas, of course, these parties, as I said, do represent something new.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Germany and what happened there. Very historic showing for the AfD.
Absolutely. This is in. There was an election in Sonneberg, I believe, and they're now clearly breaking through. They're increasingly breaking through in various elections, and they're becoming clearly now a major political force in Germany. And again, it's exactly the same process as we saw in Greece, only, of course, taken much further, but in some ways against a more difficult political setup in Germany, because, of course, in Germany especially, a right-wing party, almost by definition, because of history, is going to run into all kinds of problems. But the AfD is now breaking through. They're now polling well above 20%. They did in Sonneberg. They're going to start doing that in more and more places. And I think that before long, it's going to become impossible in Germany to ignore them anymore. One can't even imagine a situation where it will no longer be possible to form a functional and effective government coalition without them. So we are approaching that threshold moment in Germany. And again, the reasons are the same as they are in Greece. Germany is in recession. the economy of Germany has been extremely badly managed over the last few years. I won't just say badly managed, maybe that's the wrong word. Its political direction has become increasingly bizarre. I mean, the German governments have been acting in a way that diametrically conflicts with German economic interests, which never forget are the economic interests of the German people. And people in Germany are saying enough's enough of this. The left isn't providing any real alternative. The centre union parties, the Christian Democratic Union parties, coalesced around, Angela Merkel's former parties, have failed. I mean, the leader who took over, a man called Merz, was expected to take the CDU on a slightly more right-wing direction, and he seemed at one time to have been sceptical of sanctions. The moment he became leader of the CDU, all that went out of the window. So what they're doing is they're moving increasingly towards the AfD. And again, the war in Ukraine, the conflict with Russia, has been a catalyst. And once more, it is the eastern regions of Germany, the regions that were formerly a part of the former East German Democratic Republic, but the place where people know Russia best, because the Russians were there, and where many people still speak Russian. They're in effect leading the process.
Yeah. The AfD is now the number 2 party in Germany, isn't it?
Yeah, but in terms of polling, it is, which is remarkable. I mean, it's difficult to convey what a transformation in Germany that is. I mean, 5 years ago, it would have been considered all but impossible. 10 years ago, it would have been thought of as unthinkable. I mean, the AfD already existed, it was already seen as a challenge, but it was still seen very much as a fringe party. It can't be simply written off like that anymore.
And the worse things get for Germany, and they are going to get worse, the more it's going to rise, the AfD. I mean,
yeah,
things are not going to get better.
No, they're not.
Olaf Scholz is making political decisions along with the Greens, which are not in German interests.
Absolutely correct. And the problem, of course, is that the CDU is not providing an alternative. It too has considered in the past coalitions with the Greens. In fact, it has engaged in local parliaments in coalitions with the Greens. Angela Merkel was talking about a Jamaica coalition at one time, which would have brought together the Greens with the CDU. And of course, on the war in Ukraine, the conflict with Russia, the CDU is on the same page as Olaf Scholz and the current coalition. So when people have no other alternative, they start voting for the party that does offer that alternative, which is the AfD. And then, of course, what tends to happen is that when they start voting for a party like the AfD, when they put behind them whatever previously deterred them from voting for a party like that, they start assessing that party, they start engaging with it more closely, they meet other people who participate in it, they learn more about its policies, and they start to say, well, actually, that is me. That reflects more closely what I think and what I believe and what I want. And I'm not going to be prevented by the ghosts of the past from voting from a party that reflects my own feelings and my own views and which looks set to protect my own interests. We did a programme recently about France, about the rise of Marine Le Pen there. And you could start to see that happen in France. And before long, if not already, it's going to happen in Germany too.
Yeah. All right. We will end it there. The Duran.locals.com. We on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Rockfin, and Telegram. And go to Duran Shop. 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. Take care.